I kind of want to jump into USA for a minute, JT.
Yeah, go for it.
Just kind of what your thoughts are on our roster. I personally, I was pretty surprised without Donovan. I could see it if there were certain players that deserved it and that were really producing on the club level or something like that.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think there's players that don't deserve to go to the World Cup over Donovan. I think, well, you kind of mentioned Klose. I think you can't teach experience in scoring big-time goals. You can't teach that. It just happens. I think the biggest goal in World Cup history for the United States is probably that goal by Donovan.
Yeah.
Against the most, I don't know the biggest. I mean, they've done better, but I mean, I think the biggest in the sense of clutchest or maybe the most dramatic.
Yeah.
And I think, if you look at guys that got in here before him, Bedoya really doesn't do much for me. It really doesn't get me very excited. Vince Giroud, he scored a goal, but he's not great to me. And the real one, I don't know what your opinion on this guy is, JT, but I think he could be a star in the future, but I don't think he should be going this year, is Julian Green. My guess is what happened was it was kind of like a college recruitment situation. I think Klinsmann kind of not only used, I think maybe his German connections, but I think he basically told Green, hey, if you commit to USA, you can come to the World Cup this year, because, there's no way Green would have made it to Germany this year.
Right.
Because they're two more deeper than we are. And I think Donovan's a lot better player right now than Julian Green. I think Julian Green could be a star in the future. I think he's still promised, but that kind of, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Green could be good big long term, but Donovan also, I could see him scoring one or two big goals or big time crosses for us in big games here.
Yeah. I agree with you completely on that. I think Alexi Lala said it perfectly. For me, really, I have no problem with Landon Donovan not being on the squad. I don't think he is one of the best players for the USA right now. He took that sabbatical last year where he wasn't even playing soccer. So that, to me, there's not really any way that he's fit. Now, granted, everyone's like, oh, he was left off the roster and then goes and scores 4 goals in the MLS. But then again, it's not like he's snapping off against Premier League squads or Bundesliga or La Liga or Serie A, I think, I have no problem with Donovan not being on the squad. But then, with that being said, you take a look at the squad, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's no way that Donovan is not deserving of a World Cup spot compared to some of these other players. Now, a couple of the guys you mentioned, Bedoya and Diskerud, I personally think Bedoya is playing very well right now. I'm actually glad he's in the squad. I think that when he puts on an American shirt, he really actually is really fundamental, gets the job done, and I really like him being on a wing where Zusi's on the other. I think those two really play well. Diskerud, I kind of like just in the sense of a guy coming off the bench, brings a lot of energy. I think that he's a pretty good player as well. The thing with Donovan, I think, not to really, I'm not trying to call anyone out necessarily, but I think Brad Davis over Donovan's kind of an interesting decision because they both play in the MLS, but really Donovan's been doing more, at least this season, as far as I can, see. I'm not necessarily, dissecting the Galaxy and the Dynamo's game by game, but I think Donovan probably should have been a selection over Brad Davis, in my opinion. And then to get to a couple other guys, a couple youngsters, Yedlin to me is kind of an interesting decision. I know this is going kind of out of Donovan's range as he's, midfield and these are defenders, but Yedlin's kind of an interesting decision, a young decision. John Brooks, I'm really surprised he's on there because he made a mess of a game against Ukraine. Really, to me, you can't blame one single person for a loss, but there's just a lot of, those goals was really kind of him not being in the right position, not knowing where to be in the right position. And then Tim Howard makes a great save, but because no one got back, there's three Ukrainians surrounding Tim Howard, so it doesn't matter if you make the first, second save, they're going to put one in eventually. So John Brooks is a very surprising pick to me. Julian Green, the same thing. There's a lot of hype coming for this kid for playing with Bayern. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of on the bandwagon initially, thinking, hey, this is a good young spark that we can put in. But he's got, 2 or 3 caps now, and he hasn't really done, I mean, you can't say he hasn't done anything, but he's not as exciting as I thought he was going to be. Maybe the hype is almost a little bit too more. But yeah, Green, Brooks, Yedlin, some of these guys have they don't really deserve a World Cup spot over Landon Donovan, in my opinion, regardless of where the positions is. But there's some other players, other than, like, Donovan didn't make it. Terrence Boyd, I think, is playing very great right now, but he didn't make it. Obviously, it was a toss-up between him and Wando, and I think Wando is fantastic as well right now. So that's a tough call, but I almost feel like I'd rather have Boyd coming as another option off the bench other than some of these other guys. It's very tough. Obviously, I kind of agree with you that there, not to say there's something fishy, but there was some reason for Julian Green to be maybe on this World Cup roster now. It is a very interesting situation due to the fact that these guys have really not really done anything for USA Soccer, but yet they're getting a spot on the big stage for the country.
I got one point to make, and I kind of a question to pose about the team that I think needs to be asked. I think one point I want to make, I think with Brad Davis that I like is that he's a left-footed player, and
that's fair.
I mean, when I was in Houston, this is one game, a small sample size, but I've watched it a decent amount. When I watched him in Houston, and I saw Zeus in Houston, they were just playmakers, single-handedly creating for guys who probably, I probably could have been out there and made a couple plays, but they really made everyone else on their team better. They made a lot of good crosses. I feel like they're very ambitious, and they make plays, and they're not scared to fail in that sense. But the question that I have to pose, Justin, is at what point does Josie Altidore lose? Right now, it seems like Josie Altidore is just given that starting a 9 or a 10 striker spot. At what point are we like, Josie, you're not really doing it anymore? Aaron Johansson.
Yeah.
He's scoring a ton of goals. He seems like he's on fire. He came in that Azerbaijan game that made a clinical header. At what point would you possibly play 5 midfielders and maybe just have Dempsey up there? I mean, it doesn't seem like that's the case. But at what point do you tell Altidore, hey man, you're not getting it done. We're going to come off the bench.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because in my little mini rant there, I totally forgot about that. Joe, it's that age old adage. What have you done for me lately? I mean, Josie had a fantastic 2013 campaign, but he has not done anything in a USA shirt. I mean, needless to say, anything on an international stage. Obviously, there's a huge fallout there at Sunderland. It really is one of the situations he has not really contributed, but you're kind of right. He keeps getting that starting spot. I love Aaron Johansson. I think he is a fantastic player. He has proven to me, he deserves a spot in Brazil. To me, though, I kind of, not to say that I think he's good enough to start over Josie, but I really like him coming off the bench because he adds that kind of X factor on the scoring charts where you bring him in off the bench and he seems to find a way to get that goal. So I like keeping him kind of as a wild card situation where if you're in that tough spot, you could put him in and he'll find you a goal. I think Wando should start over Josie Altidore, because in that Azerbaijan game, Dempsey he strained his groin or something like that, I believe, in the pregame. So they swapped him out, put Wondolowski in there in the starting spot. He had like 5 minutes to warm up. Yet when the game started, Wando was the one having all the touches on the ball. The first 3 or 4 good chances USA had to score was Wondolowski figuring it out himself, really. So I would almost say, right, if you need to base stuff what's going on, I think Wando should probably be in the starting lineup up there with Dempsey, and Altidore should maybe not. He should maybe be on the bench to start.
I could see that. I kind of slipped my mind. Wando's been kind of like our Miroslav Klose. He's been like, I don't know, he doesn't really jump off the field. Like he won't pull any amazing goals, but he's clinical. He knows how to score. It definitely shows. The only thing I like about Altidore that I don't think many players know the player on our team, or maybe not few players in the world. He's very good at when it seems like there's pressure on our defense, whether it's Howard or one of our defenders clearing it, and he's against one or two defenders, kind of just winning that 50-50 ball, and then kind of playing it off to Zuki or playing it off to Davis or Denver or whoever.
Right.
I think he has that skill better than anyone on our team, and probably one of the better players in the world at doing that. I mean, that's kind of a lofty statement, but from what I've seen, he does a really good job at that. And I think that alone is might be a good reason to have him on, especially because when we're going against three teams we're going against who are great offensively, maybe not as much, maybe more offensively minded. When you want to be able to turn the offense and defense quick, so hopefully, I think that he's definitely an athlete.
Yeah. You did bring up a good point there. He is very good at winning some of those 50-50 balls when we're trying to clear it out, and he's good at figuring out where to put the ball. He's probably the most physical striker we have, and he does use that to his advantage to try and get into a good spot to lay it off or something like that. So I do like that about him. The problem is, though, is it just seems like a lot of these games lately, he just has kind of been out of his element. Now, I understand that, things can get kind of hairy in the European setup and club when you're not getting those consistent starts and you're not playing very much, and it can maybe kind of go to your head. I don't know if it's one of the, people are talking about that. Maybe he's just not as confident as he was last year. But I'm hoping he is able to kind of find some confidence fast, because when he's on, he is one of our top players, and really can figure out stuff to do. I mean, just to figure something out here, that 2009 Confederations Cup, when he outmuscled, I forget if it was Ramos or PK or who exactly it was on the defense, but he just outmuscled him, got the ball, turned it in, and scored that goal against Spain, which obviously was a big moment for us when we beat Spain 2-0 in that semifinal. That Bosnia game when I think he had a hat trick. I just remember we somehow got tied again 3-3, and then he scored that free kick. So I think when Josie's on, he is very good for us. It's just lately he just hasn't been that X factor for us,
You never want to hope he gets a goal. If you're a USA fan, you want to hope he gets a goal against Nigeria, correct?
Yeah.
The next game?
Yep. Nigeria's next one.
A goal. I think you and I both know from our soccer experience. I think something is just, when you're on, you know what the goal is without even really looking at it. And I think, obviously, these guys at the highest level, they even have less time than we did at the BGSU Intramural Fieldhouse. We had a little more time to find the goal. But my other interesting question, I don't know if you know about this or how much you know about it, but apparently, after we get to Brazil, I guess we're in a close scrimmage against Belgium, which is kind of an interesting thing. In general, just a close scrimmage is kind of weird to me. Kind of a secret thing that all means to know. I don't even know. Maybe we might never know what the result is. We could win 8-0 or could either lose 8-0. But the interesting thing beyond that is that chances are we're not going to win the group. There would probably be a lot of people running around their shirts off with the American flag on their back.
Yeah.
In the street. In the United States, if that happened, and I might be one of them. But the chances are, to get out of the Super League back in, And if you look at the group we would go against in the next round, the what chances are, if you look at it, Group H, not to get too far ahead of ourselves,
Right.
and the chances are Belgium will win that group. So I just think it's an interesting proposition that I see them in. Obviously, Clemson and them, they know these things going into the tournament a long time ago. But there's a decent chance that if we get out of the group, we'll have a close scrimmage and then a real game, a knockout game against Belgium.
Yeah.
It's kind of a dark horse, which is an interesting situation.
That is an interesting situation. Because that obviously, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think Belgium has a good chance to win that group.